Hi guys, and welcome to Modding Fallout 3 Part 4. Now this video is going to be devoted to performance and stability. Now the reason I'm doing it now is that if you've been following my previous videos, you now have a good base for a modded game. You've got Fallout Wanderers Edition and Mart's Mutant mod, you've got a modified heads-up display as you can see, and you have changed the weather mod. I'm currently using Project Reality, as you can see. Very nice indeed. And this is a very, very good base, and I'm now going to start really increasing the number of mods. I've got a lot of mods I'm going to throw at it, and I'm going to be very soon starting with texture replacement mods to make the game look a lot better. And performance is going to be critical. So what do I mean by performance? Well, the most obvious thing that people think of when you say performance is frame rate. Now, I may be getting some improvements in that area, but that's not the main focus for this video. You see, one of the big problems with the Fallout 3 game is that it stutters. It is unstable sometimes, and it stutters. Now, what do I mean by stutters? Well, there are actually two things I mean by stutters. The first one is like the major stutters are when you move around in areas and the game suddenly stops for, I don't know, a tenth of a second. It's very noticeable, or it could even be half a second. Sometimes it happens when you turn, sometimes it happens when you just are wandering around. And it's the game loading new textures or new resources. Now, this is going to become especially prevalent when you start increasing the texture sizes, etc., or adding a lot more meshes, etc., to the game. The point is, the more we mod our game, the more we're going to get those stutters. It's almost inevitable. So we're going to find ways to prevent that. Now, the other thing that we're going to be fighting is something called micro stutters. Now, micro stutters are these things that some people don't even notice, but most of us do. And it's something that's been plaguing Bethesda games since Oblivion, at the very least. It's better known, or it's more correct to call it the 64 Hertz bug, apparently. And what it basically does to your game is, if I move sideways now, you should see a slight, tiny stutter when moving. Even though I've got 60 frames a second, absolutely stable, rock solid, I get this tiny little stutter, and it is absolutely like clockwork. It doesn't matter what my frame rate is. In fact, the higher my frame rate, the more this is noticeable. And that is something we can fix. Absolutely. Now, one of the major problems with Fallout 3 is the fact that it does not use all of your memory. If you are using a machine with more than 2 gigabytes of memory, it's going to waste for Fallout 3 because Fallout 3 will not use it. And so we're going to get around that. Now, I'm doing this on a 64-bit operating system. I think it's still a useful thing to do on 32-bit operating system, as you still have up to, I think it's 3 gigabyte, 4 gigabyte you could possibly use. Not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure it's still worth doing. But we're going to make Fallout 3 able to use more memory. Now, there is a number of ways of doing that. The simplest way is to actually edit the Fallout 3 executable with a program which I will show you. But before we do that, I want you to basically make a folder and call it Fallout exe backup. So you've now got this folder, Fallout exe backup, and I want you to go to fallout3.exe, right click it, copy, then go in there and paste it. So you've now got a backup copy. Now, the easiest way to make the game 4 gigabyte enabled is to use a program called CFF Explorer. Now, I did a brief search and found loads of places to download it. I'll include this one in the bottom. And you just install this program, and it's fairly easy. if you do not want to do this, if you do not want to install a program that edits executables yourself, you're really uncomfortable with it, or maybe you're not allowed to install programs or something, I will show you an alternative way to do this. But I've got that installed anyway. And what I do is I right-click Fallout3.exe and I go to Open with CFF Explorer. And I get this window here. Let me just make that a little larger so it cuts out the background. And I go to File Header. And under Characteristics, where it says click here, I click. And you can see it says App can handle greater than 2 GB address space. I select that, click OK. I then hit Save, Yes, and Close. And it's that simple. The game will now use more than 2 GB of memory. Right, so, and obviously if I decide that there's a problem with it, I can just copy my backup. I just copy the backup, go back up, and paste it. Copy and replace. Now it's back to being not able to use greater than 2 GB. I could actually have edited it the same way. So, what happens if you don't want to use that program? Right. If you go along to the Fallout 3 Nexus, there is a mod called Large Address Aware Enabler for Fallout 3. Download this file manually. Now I download it to my desktop. You can put it wherever you like, but the desktop is a convenient place. But download it manually. Do not download with Manager. Do not do that. Download manually. Once the file has downloaded, you can right-click it and either using 7-zip or WinRAR. And if you don't have either of those programs installed, you check one of my earlier videos, I linked to it there. If I remember, I will put a link at the bottom of this video as well. And extract here. A few seconds later, you'll have a folder, 3 GB enabler. You can now delete that archive. So you now have this folder. Keep hold of that. Open your games folder once again. That's the folder where you had the Fallout 3.exe. And basically, well, you might as well cut this. Open the folder, the 3 GB enabler folder, and paste. Now double click start.bat. This little menu will appear, little window will appear, excuse me. Press any key to continue, so I'll press spacebar for example. And you can then A for add, R for remove, etc. You're going to do A for add. Now it just tells you it's been fixed. Large address aware has been enabled. Press any key to continue. I'm going to press space again. E to exit, and you're done. You then cut that Fallout 3 exe and go back to the folder where it came from and paste it. And that's it. It is now also large address aware. Now, I can even show you the program has basically done exactly what I told it to do earlier. File header, click here. You can see it's set the flag for you, so you don't need this program. So you can download that and it will do it all for you without needing to install any program. Either method works just fine. Now hopefully that will reduce things like stutters and make the game a lot more stable. It will make your game a lot more resilient to modding further and is definitely a good first step. But now we're going to deal with those horrible micro stutters by installing the Fallout Stutter Remover, which basically does exactly that. If I go along to the file section, the main file, Fallout Stutter Remover 407. You can hit download with Manager on that. That will then start up Nexus Mod Manager and download. It shouldn't take very long at all. It's quite a small file. However, there is also an update. This is the work in progress. This is for 1.26. Now, I can tell you now, download with Manager will not work for this. It will not work for this, I'm afraid. So you need to download manually. Download that one manually, wherever. I'm going to once again download it to my desktop. Now, once the Fallout Stutter Remover has downloaded, activate it. It will be very, very quick to install. Now, what that has done is if you go along to your Fallout 3 data folder, you will now see a folder called FOSE, and under there, plugins, and here you will find the stutter remover, these files here. Now, if I open this work in progress, you will notice this is the file I downloaded. This was the update. You'll notice this has a single file. And it's the same as one of these. But I don't want you to simply copy this from here to there. I do not want you to do that because I want you to use the mod manager to do as much of this as humanly possible. That way you keep better control of the files. So for now, I'm going to close that. This file that you just downloaded has this one file in it. Right click on your desktop and start new folder and type in data. Then open the data folder and do new folder FOSE. Go into FOSE, new folder plugins. Go into there. From the zip file, copy the DLL and paste it into this folder structure. You can then close the zip file. In fact, you can actually delete it. You now have the DLL in data, FOSE, and plugins. You can actually close that. Right click and do add to archive. If you're using WinRAR, add to archive. Don't do add to data, but add to archive and give it a reasonable name. So Fallout 3 Stutter Remover Update.rar, and then click OK. You can leave everything else the same. You will now have a little archive file. Now you can delete the data folder as well. Go back to Nexus Mod Manager, go to the Add Mod from File, and choose the Fallout 3 Stutter Remover Update.rar that you just created. There it is. There it is. Excuse me. And activate. It should now warn you that you are overwriting a previous file. This is good. This is what you want to see. Now the mod manager is aware that you are updating this file. So click yes. Now the advantage to this is you can remove the update and leave the stutter remover if you find the update was wrong for you. But now the Fallout stutter remover is installed, I can actually delete this archive. But we're not quite finished. Go along back to your data folder inside FOSE and plugins. There is an ini file that comes with this. Edit it. Edit it either with Notepad or Notepad++, it's up to you. The thing you want to look at first of all is the master section. bfix 64 Hz equals 1. That needs to be set to 1. That's great. That's exactly what you want. There is also another section that's going to affect you. manage FPS equals 1. Now what this is going to do is it's going to limit your frames per second. That may or may not be good, and I'll tell you why in a second. If this is set to 1, the stutter remover will manage your FPS. If you don't want it to do that, you can change it to 0. And then you can save this file and go, and you're done. The stutter will be gone, and stutter remover will not manage your FPS in the slightest. However, you can leave stutter remover managing your FPS, but you probably want to change a value in here. Now, why would you want the stutter remover to cap your FPS? Well, one of the things that happens when the frame rate changes dramatically is you can sense it, you can feel it. If your frame rate is 30 frames per second 1 second and 60 the next, unless you are very insensitive to these sort of things, you will feel it, and it will be noticeable, and it's distracting. Sometimes it's better to keep the game at 30 frames a second if your machine can keep that solid. Sometimes it's better because it's consistent and your eyes get used to it, and after a while you're just completely used to it and you don't get distracted. Now if you can basically keep 60 frames a second stable, you can set the maximum FPS to 60. I would not actually set it above that, as Fallout 3 does have some issues with certain mods if they change the time scale. I'm not totally sure of the details, but I know for a fact that if my game goes over 60 frames a second with Fallout Wanderers Edition installed, time speeds up, basically relative to the frame rate. So if I'm doing 120 frames a second, my character runs twice as fast, shoots twice as fast, but so does everyone else. It's very disturbing. So I cap it at 60 frames a second. So that's what I would basically recommend. However, I actually don't need the Fallout Stutter Remover to manage my FPS because I have a program that I always run when running these games called DxTorry, which is what I use to record the games, and it will cap at 60 for me, so I don't need anything else doing it. But once you've got this set up, basically save. Now, if you don't do this, what's going to happen if you don't change either the manage FPS to 0 or the maximum FPS to 60, when you play the game with this mod installed, your frame rate will be capped at 30 frames a second. And so you may think, oh my god, my performance is worse. Well, yes it is, because you're not going over 30 frames a second. So just be aware of that. And now, once in game, as I move, you can see that annoying micro stutter is gone.
You need something?
So I'm not totally sure how obvious it is in the video, but trust me, this is a lot smoother. The game feels really nice now. Moving around is a pleasure. So, mission accomplished for that. And of course, 4GB enabled, so hopefully no stutters once I start adding lots more mods. Now, one thing I'm going to talk about before I carry on discussing ways to improve performance is the small problem of crashes due to multi-core problems. Now, Fallout 3 is basically famous for not handling multi-core CPUs very well. And if you are getting crashes when you enter small areas or at the beginning of the game when you start a new game, for example, you may be subject to this problem. And there is a fix for it, and it's pretty easy to do. And I made a video basically covering this completely called Fallout 3 Multicore Fix. So if you are having that problem, you can go along and watch that video now, and hopefully that will clear that up for you. But the next thing we're going to do is entertain the idea of playing Fallout 3 in windowed mode. Now, this always catches people by surprise a little bit. However, a lot of people, and I do mean a lot of people, find that playing certain games in windowed mode is actually better than the normal full screen mode. So they get better performance, they get less stutters, and they get a lot less crashes. This is true of a lot of the Bethesda games, and it does seem to depend on your system. But it is something that's definitely worth trying out. Now, of course, I know what you're thinking. You don't want to play windowed mode because you have this horrible border around it. Don't worry. There are ways to get around that. Well, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go along to the fake full screen mode windowed alt tab fix page. Go along to the file section and download the main file manually. Download it manually. Again, I'm going to download it to my desktop. Once it's downloaded, simply extract here. And you're going to find a single executable appears. Then delete the archive. Cut this and go along to your Fallout executable folder, the Fallout game folder, basically the place where you found your Fallout 3 executable earlier. Once this file is downloaded, right click it and extract it here. A single file will be extracted. There you go. And then you can delete the archive. Now you're going to need to open up your Fallout 3 game folder. That's the place where the Fallout 3.executable is. You should know that by now. You've cut this, paste it into that folder. Let's have a look. There you go, Fallout fullscreen.exe. Now I am actually going to then right click this and do send to desktop, which will create, there you go, which creates a shortcut. And I'm now going to put that wherever it is I want for my game. So there you go. Now, before we run this, we have to go along to the Fallout 3 launcher. So this is not, you're not running the game, you're not running the Fallout Script Extender launcher, you're running the game as normal so that this menu appears. And then you're going to click Options, and then you're going to make it windowed. You need to change the resolution back. It always resets the resolution, which is slightly irritating, but there you go. Click OK, and now exit. And that is it. You now run the game by double-clicking this. Now what is going to happen when I double-click this is the game will start up with a windowed border, and then a few seconds later that border disappears. And that's it. As you can see, the game is now running actually in windowed mode. This actually means I can Alt-Tab a lot easier. Because it's in a window, it will Alt-Tab really quickly without any problems. And just in case you're worried, if I press the console key and type get FOSE version and then enter, you can see Fallout Script Extender is still running, and this is completely compatible with the 4GB fix, etc. So here I am in game. Now, it actually feels smoother than before. I think I'm getting even less stutter now in the windowed mode, which, to be honest, I expected. This is usually what happens, and I've got my frame rate capped at 60 anyway, so it's not dropping below that. But I get the feeling that my frame rate would actually be higher too. So, brilliant, right? I mean, if it works for you, brilliant. And do be aware that it doesn't work for everyone. Some people get no bonus whatsoever. I don't think I've ever heard of anyone having a performance drop, but I know a few people who say it didn't change anything for them. But one of the things that almost everyone reports is a massive reduction in crashes using windowed mode. So, great, right? Yeah, there is a disadvantage. One disadvantage. You cannot alter the brightness. The display brightness, it doesn't matter what you pick. You can't see it in game. It does not change the in-game brightness in the slightest. Now there are ways around this. There is actually an alternative to the fake full screen. The same author made another mod basically that does something similar for all games and allows you to change the alpha. It's not very fine-tuned, but it does work. The reason I don't use it is because it requires you to start it before you start the game or have it running all the time. I prefer this because it comes on when I need it. However, I will be installing another program, another mod, during these videos that will allow us to alter the brightness in-game regardless. It's a mod called the Imaginator if anyone is curious. And so you will be able to change the brightness using that mod. And that works just fine. So, this is one of those things that I suggest if you have performance problems or stability problems, give this a try. You would be surprised how well it works. But again, I cannot promise it's going to give you a performance boost or stability. It is going to depend on your system. So, give it a try, but please don't come back and shout at me if it didn't help you. Okay guys, and that's it for this video. Now, the things I've covered in this video are what I would consider basic performance and stability enhancements. They are the sort of things that are fairly easy to do and have a fairly dramatic effect on either performance or stability. So, give them a try. I think at least some of them are bound to help you. But I've not covered what I would call advanced performance and stability tweaking. Where you change the ini files, etc. And there are some major things you can do there. For example, you can get the game to load more cells earlier, which is it loads more of the game earlier on so that you don't stutter when you enter new areas. You can also set it so that it uses more memory to hold things, and that's especially useful now that you've got the 4GB enabler. So I am probably going to do another video later on in the series where I cover advanced performance and stability tweaks. I will actually include a link to a great tweak guide at the bottom of this video, and you can check that out, because in the video I'm talking about making in the future, I am almost certainly going to be following advice from that tweak guide. So you can check it out in advance, but I will cover it and show you the sort of tweaks I recommend and those that I don't. But hopefully, with the techniques I've showed you in this video, you'll be able to get your game performing a little better, being a lot more stable, and remove those annoying stutters so the game looks a lot smoother. You've also got a game that is now a lot more future mod proof. It's going to handle things like enhanced textures a lot better. That's good, because in the next video, that's what I'm going to start doing. It's about time that we start making this game look a bit nicer. So I'm going to be focusing on some texture packs, maybe some shaders, and maybe a few other things. Anyway, I hope you join me for that video, and I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you found it useful. If you did, remember, click the like button. I always appreciate that, and I hope to see you guys in the next part. But until then, have fun.
I just want to be the one you love.